back to Walkera V400D02 modifications, improvements, upgrades, maintenance, and we've got a model here, and this has got a lot of modifications. But the one I want to talk about right now is the RTFHeli.com brushless motor. Okay, now this is an excellent modification for this helicopter. This turns this thing into a real aggressive helicopter. It's a relatively simple installation. There's no modifications to the helicopter. It's all plug and play. I want to show you what it looks like. Here you got obviously the motor, and now you've got the factory ESC on this side. Okay, and their kit plugs directly in. Now you see I've got it wired around the back. And you've got this other ESC that they give you, which will run the motor. And it's all there's no soldering involved. It's a very simple install. One of the things you'll notice on my job here, and I want to show you this bigger battery. We'll get back to that in a second. We load from the front still. But what we've got is we've got the battery plug up here. Now I like to use the Dean's connectors. That's not required, but I've got my switch. You're going to want to have a switch. And it plugs in nice right here. Okay, it's nice and neat. It's easy to get the battery in and out. As far as holding the battery down, I think we covered it in an earlier segment, but we use just a regular old rubber band. Bingo. Now, the battery I just put in here is an 1800 milliamp battery. Now, I don't think it's a good idea to use that battery in a brush motor, but in the brushless you can get away with it. Now, it's going to weigh this guy down a bit. And as an extension of that, one of the things I want to talk about is one of the upgrades is blades. Now, I tried a lot of blades. Now what we've got here, I'm going to put this aside. Alright, the standard D400 has 315 millimeter blades. And in my quest for blades, I found some decent fiberglass blades. These are not bad. They're marked and numbered and balanced. We found some relatively cheap, bunch of 5, bags of 5 wooden laminated blades. Then we've got the factory Walkera blades. It turns out the Walkera blades are, I think, the best of the three here. Now these are standard length. These are 315 millimeter. The wooden blades are good, I guess, for a cheap blade if you're testing things. If you're a little unsure of yourself, you think you might have blade strikes. They're cheap. You break them, you throw them away, everybody's happy. I just wouldn't expect a lot of performance out of them, and definitely don't use these on the brushless update. The brushless motor RPMs are a little bit high, and unless you take the time to balance these are not going to make you happy. The Walkera blades hold up just fine at the higher RPMs. I found that these other off-brand fiberglass blades are pretty good blades. They're well made. What I found, though, they have what in aviation folks call a dihedral. The dihedral angle on these is a little bit different than the factory, and they're a little heavier. They fly okay, but with the carbon brush motors, they're a little heavy. That's not worth it. Stick with the Walkera blades. I think you'll be happier. Now on the brushless upgrade, definitely I don't use these wooden blades. Stay away from that. If you're going to go with the standard 315 blades, the Walkera or the aftermarket fiberglass carbon fiber work just fine. Now, if you're going to go to the 325 blades, we've got these off-brand carbon fiber blades, which again they're thick blades. They have a heavy dihedral angle, and they weigh a bit. So we've got these stealth blades. I happen to get these from RTFHeli.com, and these turn out to be the best. Now these fly fine. Now with this brushless motor, it's got a lot of power, but it's mostly at higher RPMs. It doesn't have a lot of torque, like most of these helicopter motors don't. And these stealth blades have a little bit better dihedral angle, and they're lighter. So we got better performance out of these guys if you're going to go with the longer blades. Now, if you're going to go with the longer blade, if you're going to go with the 1800 milliamp battery, with the longer blades, that's fine. The longer blades with the 1500 milliamp battery is okay, but you're not going to get away with it with the 1300 milliamp blades. And don't go with the longer blades with the brush motor, the carbon brush motor. Regardless of what blades you use on this model, when you do the upgrade with the brushless motor, RTF Heli has some recommendations for your curve settings. I'm not necessarily disagreeing with their settings, but I think what you're going to want to do is keep the RPMs or the throttle curve to a maximum of 50%. Now we took this out and played with this every which way you could possibly imagine, and anything roughly over 50% we got vibration problems. It turned out to be a harmonic vibration in the blades as they spun, and the balancer on here couldn't keep up, and we got some really horrible vibrations. As long as we kept it under 50%, we were fine. And trust me, it's plenty of power, and you'll be a happy camper. This is kind of a silly upgrade or issue. Let me use the smaller one to show you. One of the things I like on my helicopters is have a nice blade holder. I couldn't find a blade holder to fit this helicopter, and then I found that the T-Rex 500, believe it or not, works really well. And I'll show you what I mean. It fits right in the back here, nice and tight and snug. And blade's just nice and snug and tight. I had a real pain in the ass problem. I could not find a blade holder for this helicopter, and I stumbled across the T-Rex 500, and that fits just fine. So we're happy about that. Hey, welcome back, guys. We're working on these Walkera V400D02 helicopters, and in our series of modifications, upgrades, and maintenance. Now it's time to talk about servos, which is probably one of the weakest links in this helicopter. Now, this one here is not a stock helicopter, but it has stock servos on it, Walkera servos. Here's two examples. This is a standard Walkera servo. The replacements sometimes come in as blue, but it's the same servo. The problem with the servo, it's a decent servo with the exception of it's all plastic gears. And minor crashes, hard landings, or even sometimes normal wear and tear, and the gears will strip. And it's a problem. Now, they're not expensive, they're cheap servos, but that's the problem, they're cheap servos. So one of the things that most folks are doing right now is upgrading to all metal, or nearly all metal servos. Here, this one here, it's got an upgraded set of servos. Now, this is a factory Walkera servo here. And then we've got a servo here, an all-metal servo here from RTFHeli.com. This is an excellent servo. I don't really know that I know exactly who's making this for them, but it's an excellent servo. It's got a lot of torque. It's peppy, it's speedy, and I'd recommend it. The only problem I had with this was it's very difficult to install because of the mounts. It goes in, it works, but it was tough. So we're working on some upgrades for that. This helicopter here has some all-metal servo upgrades. These are high-tech, and they went in a little easier. I think that the RTF Heli servo is a better servo, better well-made, all-metal. The high-tech was just easier to install. Now, one of the things that I didn't mention in an earlier segment on these servos is that a lot of the servos, the factory servos and the RTFHeli.com servos, or most servos, right here when you do the brushless motor upgrade, now this one's clear, this is nice because I repositioned the mount, but this servo arm will contact the back of the motor. So what you're going to wind up doing is you're going to wind up taking the servo arm right here and bending it. You can heat it up to plastic, bend it, whatever you got to do, but you're going to wind up bending it to get clearance here. The problem that you're going to have with whatever servo you pick to upgrade to is the way it mounts on the frame. Now, Walkera's got some strange ideas about how they mounted these servos, and it's an alignment problem. This one here has a very unusual upgrade that I wouldn't recommend for everyone, but we were experimenting here. And we actually made, I don't know if we're going to be able to get this in frame. Are we going to be able to get this in frame? This one here, we actually made extra metal brackets to the frame to mount these servos on. I wouldn't recommend that for the light of heart. That was a lot of work, and it's tedious, and there's very small holes involved. But however you choose, now we're going to make a video as soon as we can on a detailed explanation on how to do this upgrade. But of all the upgrades on the helicopter, this is one that is a pain in the butt, but terribly important. So it's something to think about and ponder. I think that right now, unless you're really crafty and you've got a drill press and some machining experience, your best bet is the rtfheli.com servo upgrade. It's not perfect, but it is very good, and it's an excellent servo. It's just going to take some time and some effort to get it in there. They've got a video on the install that they recommend. I did it. It worked fine. This particular model, though, of course, I did it differently. But you're going to want to do this upgrade. It's the weakest link in the helicopter. I mean, if you never crash it, ever, I think that these plastic servos will not last forever. They're just light duty. They didn't make them out of Delrin. There's some really soft plastic, and they're gonna break. So good luck and fly well. It is so friggin' windy. I'm having a hard time standing still. So let's see how this works. All right, we're on the Blade 450.